I learned early that being adopted meant being reminded of it constantly. Not in the gentle, loving way adoptive families are supposed to work. No heartwarming conversations about being chosen or wanted. Instead, it was weaponized. Every argument, every family decision, every moment when they wanted to exclude me, my adoption status became the justification. Real family decides this. Blood relatives only for this discussion. You wouldn't understand family loyalty. I was 8 when Marcus first used it against me. We'd both wanted the same toy at Christmas, and when I got it, he whispered to Mom that adopted kids shouldn't get better presents than real children. Mom returned my gift the next day. Marcus got an upgraded version. I was 12 when Dad explained I couldn't have a say in family business discussions because it wouldn't be right, since I wasn't biologically connected to the company's legacy. I sat outside the office door while Marcus, only 10, was brought in to learn the business. I was 16 when Aunt Patricia loudly announced at Thanksgiving that the family company would stay in the bloodline, and that I should prepare for a different career path. She said it while carving the turkey, not even looking at me like she was commenting on the weather. I was 23 when I stopped trying to be included. The Anderson family owned Anderson Manufacturing, a mid-sized industrial parts company started by my grandfather in 1967. By the time I was adopted at age 5, after my biological parents died in a car accident, the company was worth about $18 million and employed 200 people. My adoptive parents, Richard and Susan Anderson, took me in because Susan couldn't have more children after Marcus. They wanted a daughter. They got me, quiet, bookish, more interested in financial statements than family drama. Marcus was the golden child. Charismatic, athletic, popular. Everything came easy to him, including everyone's affection. He was groomed from childhood to take over Anderson Manufacturing someday. Private business school, internships, networking events. The company's future CEO. I went to state college on academic scholarships. Studied finance and economics. Worked 3 part-time jobs. Nobody in the family attended my graduation. Marcus threw a yacht party for his graduation from business school. The whole family flew to Miami. After college, I worked as a financial analyst at a corporate firm in Chicago. I was good at it, really good. I could spot undervalued assets, predict market trends, identify failing companies that could be restructured. My bosses noticed. Within 4 years, I'd made senior analyst. I also started investing. Small amounts at first, but strategic. Tech startups before they exploded. Real estate in neighborhoods about to gentrify. Index funds during dips. My portfolio grew steadily. Meanwhile, Marcus joined Anderson Manufacturing as Vice President of Operations, a title Dad created for him. Marcus had an office, an assistant, and absolutely no idea how to actually run a business. He went to long lunches, played golf with clients, and took credit for other people's work. The company started struggling around 2019. Nothing catastrophic, but the margins were tightening. Competition from overseas manufacturers was intensifying. Dad's old-school management style wasn't adapting to new market realities. I could see it in the quarterly reports. Yes, I still received them as a family member, even if I wasn't invited to meetings. Revenue was flat. Operating costs were climbing. Several key contracts were expiring. I was 27 when the opportunity appeared. A private equity firm was circling Anderson Manufacturing, looking for vulnerable mid-sized companies to acquire. They approached Dad with an initial offer. Dad refused, indignant. This company stays in the family. But the financial pressure was building. Dad needed capital for equipment upgrades and facility expansion. The banks were getting nervous about extending more credit. The company was cash poor despite its assets. That's when Dad did something desperate. He created a new class of non-voting preferred shares and sold them to private investors to raise capital quickly. It was a complex financial instrument that gave investors ownership stake and dividends without control over business decisions. The family would maintain control through the original common voting shares. Everyone would keep their power. The investors would just collect dividends quietly. Dad was so focused on maintaining voting control that he didn't pay attention to who was buying the preferred shares. He hired a third-party investment firm to manage the sale discreetly, and as long as the capital came in, he didn't ask questions. I bought 67% of those preferred shares through a series of LLC holdings and investment vehicles. Cost me nearly everything I'd saved and invested over 8 years. $4.2 million. To Dad, to Marcus, to everyone, I was still just the adopted kid working some finance job in Chicago. They had no idea I'd become a senior investment analyst managing a $40 million portfolio. They never asked about my career. I never volunteered. The paperwork was structured through multiple legal entities. My name didn't appear on any immediate documentation. Just corporate designations: Meridian Holdings LLC, Cascade Investment Trust, North Shore Capital Partners. The lawyers assured me it was all legal and properly structured. The preferred shares carried one critical provision that Dad's attorneys had buried in the fine print and apparently never explained to him. In the event of a merger, acquisition, or sale of more than 40% of company assets, preferred shareholders had to approve the transaction. They'd included it as a standard protective clause for investors. Nobody thought it would matter because preferred shareholders were supposed to be passive investors who'd rubber stamp anything that protected their dividends. I held those shares for 3 years. Collected quiet dividends. Watched the quarterly reports. Said nothing. The company continued struggling. Marcus's mismanagement was becoming impossible to hide. A major contract fell through because Marcus had insulted the client's procurement officer at a golf outing. An equipment upgrade went 40% over budget because Marcus hadn't bothered to get competitive bids. Dad kept covering for him. He's learning. He's family. He'll grow into it. I visited home maybe twice a year. Christmas and Thanksgiving out of obligation. The visits were always the same. Barely acknowledged arrival, excluded from family discussions, seated at the kids' table with cousins 10 years younger, reminded in dozens of subtle ways that I wasn't really one of them. Marcus got married last year to Brittany, a woman whose personality consisted entirely of brand names and Instagram filters. The wedding cost $300,000. Dad paid for everything. When I'd gotten married 3 years earlier to Daniel, a wonderful architect I'd met in Chicago, nobody from the family attended. Mom sent a card. It arrived 2 weeks after the wedding. Daniel understood. He'd seen how they treated me. "You don't owe them anything," he'd say. But I kept showing up to holidays anyway. Some stupid part of me still hoping they'd see me as family. That hope died completely last month. Dad called a major family meeting at the company's headquarters. Marcus sent a group text: "Big announcement. All family members required to attend. This is about the company's future." I almost didn't go. But Daniel convinced me. Maybe this is them finally including you. Maybe it's changing. I drove 4 hours from Chicago to our hometown of Riverside. Walked into the familiar building where I'd spent countless childhood hours being excluded from real business. The conference room was full. Mom, Dad, Marcus, Brittany, Aunt Patricia, Uncle Tom, several cousins who joined the company in various positions. The walls were lined with photos of Anderson family leadership through the generations. My photo wasn't among them. I took a seat near the back. Several people glanced at me with surprise, like they hadn't expected me to actually show up. "Glad you could make it, Maya," Dad said with forced pleasantness. "Since this affects the family, we thought you should hear the news." Marcus stood at the head of the table, practically glowing with self-importance. He'd put on weight since the wedding and his expensive suit was tailored to hide it. He clicked a remote and a presentation appeared on the screen. "Anderson Manufacturing has received an incredible opportunity," Marcus announced. "Titan Corp Industries has offered to acquire 60% of our company for $32 million. Excited murmurs filled the room. Aunt Patricia actually gasped. Marcus continued, clicking through slides. "This merger would give us access to Titan Corp's distribution networks, their client base, their manufacturing facilities. We'd go from a regional player to a national presence. The family would retain 40% ownership and significant board representation. And the payout." He grinned. "Let's just say everyone in this room is looking at a substantial windfall." Uncle Tom was already calculating on his phone. Several cousins were whispering excitedly. Brittany looked like she was mentally redecorating their house. "We've negotiated excellent terms," Marcus went on. "Dad remains as chairman emeritus. I become chief operating officer of the merged entity with a guaranteed 5-year contract. Other family members maintain their positions with enhanced compensation packages." Dad was beaming with pride. Marcus has been working on this deal for 6 months. It's exactly what this company needs. We're going to vote on it today and move forward immediately. The paperwork is ready, Marcus added. Our attorneys have reviewed everything. We just need family approval to proceed. This is a formality, really. Everyone wins here. He looked around the room with a confident smile. Any questions before we vote? I raised my hand. Marcus's smile tightened slightly. Yes, Maya. What about the preferred shareholders? The room went silent. Marcus's expression flickered with confusion. What? The preferred shares that were sold in 2020, I said calmly. The terms require preferred shareholder approval for any sale of more than 40% of company assets. This is a 60% sale. Did you contact them? Dad waved dismissively. Those are just passive investors, Maya. They don't have voting rights on company operations. They have approval rights on mergers and major asset sales, I said. It's in Section 7.3 of the Preferred Share Agreement. I've read it. Marcus looked annoyed. Why would you read that? Because I'm interested in how businesses work, I replied evenly. Well, the lawyers are handling all that technical stuff, Marcus said, his tone becoming patronizing. This is a family meeting to discuss family matters. The legal details are covered. So you've contacted the preferred shareholders? I pressed. We will, Marcus snapped. It's a formality. They'll approve anything that increases company value and their dividends. Now, if there are no other relevant questions. Actually, Aunt Patricia interrupted, I have a question. If these preferred shareholders can block the deal, shouldn't we make sure they're on board before we celebrate? Marcus's jaw clenched. We've been assured by legal counsel that investor approval is a standard formality. Now can we please focus on the family discussion? Of course, I said mildly. Sorry for the interruption. But I noticed Dad and Marcus exchange a glance. A tiny seed of doubt had been planted. The family voted unanimously to approve the merger. Everyone signed preliminary documents. Champagne was opened. People were already planning how to spend their windfall. I didn't sign anything. I wasn't asked to. Let's have a toast, Dad announced, raising his glass. To Anderson Manufacturing's incredible future. To family. To the legacy we're building together. To family, everyone echoed. I sipped my champagne and said nothing. As people mingled and celebrated, Marcus cornered me near the coffee station. What was that about? Asking questions about preferred shareholders. Just curious about the process, I said. You're not part of the business, Maya. You work in Chicago doing whatever it is you do. He said it like my career was finger painting. This doesn't concern you. You're right, I agreed. Sorry I asked. But he wasn't done. The champagne had made him bold. You know what your problem is? You've never understood your place in this family. You're not a real Anderson. You don't have the bloodline. You're not entitled to be involved in business decisions. I set down my champagne glass carefully. I understand. Do you? Because you always do this. Show up to family events with this attitude like you deserve to be included in everything. You're adopted, Maya. That's just reality. The business is for real family. He emphasized those words deliberately. Dad was nice enough to invite you today so you could hear the news, but this doesn't actually involve you. Several family members had stopped talking. They were watching our conversation. This merger is happening, Marcus continued, his voice rising. It's already decided. The family has voted. And just because you took some finance classes and work at some corporate job doesn't mean you get a say in Anderson Manufacturing. That's not how this works. You're absolutely right, I said quietly. I don't get a say in family votes. Exactly. So stop trying to insert yourself into things that don't concern you. He turned to address the room. Maya's always been like this. Ever since we were kids. Always trying to be included where she doesn't belong. It's exhausting. A few people laughed nervously. Dad didn't tell Marcus to stop. Mom looked away. Aunt Patricia nodded. The business has always been for blood relatives, dear. That's just tradition. Nothing personal. I understand completely, I said. I should probably go. Long drive back to Chicago. Yeah, probably best, Marcus agreed. We've got a lot of real business to discuss anyway. Family business. I collected my coat and bag. As I walked toward the door, Brittany called out, "Maya, don't feel bad. You can come to our celebration dinner next week after the deal closes. We'd love to have you there to celebrate with us." "Thanks," I said. "I'll check my schedule." I drove back to Chicago in silence. Daniel was waiting when I got home. "How was it?" he asked. "About what I expected," I said. "Did they include you in the discussions?" "For about 5 minutes. Then Marcus reminded everyone that I'm adopted and therefore not entitled to be involved in real family business decisions." Daniel's expression darkened. "He said that? In front of everyone?" Dad didn't stop him. Nobody defended me. I sat down on our couch, suddenly exhausted. They're selling 60% of the company to Titan Corp. Everyone's celebrating their windfall. "Are you okay?" I thought about it. Actually, I am. Because they're going to learn something very soon. "What?" "That being family isn't just about blood. It's also about basic human decency and respect. And they're about to find out what happens when you treat people like outsiders for their entire lives." Daniel sat next to me. "What are you going to do?" "Wait for the phone call," I said. "It should come in about 48 hours. "What phone call?" I smiled. "The one where they discover that the adopted kid they've dismissed for 28 years owns 67% of the preferred shares in their company. And that their $32 million merger can't proceed without my approval." Daniel's eyes widened. "You're the majority preferred shareholder?" "Through various holding companies, yes. I bought the shares 3 years ago when Dad was desperate for capital. He sold them through a third-party firm and never bothered to investigate who was buying them." "Does anyone know?" "Not yet. But their lawyers will figure it out very quickly once they start the formal merger process with Titan Corp. There's extensive due diligence required. The preferred shareholder approval is mandatory. They'll request contact information for all preferred shareholders to get signatures. And then they'll discover that Meridian Holdings, Cascade Investment Trust, and North Shore Capital Partners are all controlled by me. That I own 67% of the preferred shares. That I have effective veto power over this merger." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make them ask. Politely. Respectfully. As equals. And then I'm going to decide whether people who've spent nearly 3 decades telling me I'm not real family deserve to have me approve a deal that will make them millions." The call came on Wednesday morning. I was in a meeting at work when my personal phone buzzed repeatedly. 7 missed calls from Dad. 4 from Marcus. 3 from a number I didn't recognize. Then my work phone rang. Our receptionist. "Maya, there's an attorney named Gerald Hutchinson calling for you. Says it's urgent regarding Anderson Manufacturing." "Transfer it to my office," I said. I closed my office door. Took a breath. Answered professionally. "This is Maya Chin." "Miss Chin, this is Gerald Hutchinson from Hutchinson and Bradshaw LLP. We represent Anderson Manufacturing in their proposed merger with Titan Corp Industries. Do you have a moment to discuss some urgent business matters?" "Of course." His voice was careful, professional. "We're conducting due diligence for the merger, and we've encountered an unexpected situation. Our research indicates that you may have a controlling interest in the preferred shares of Anderson Manufacturing. Specifically, you appear to own or control 67% of said shares through multiple investment entities." "That's correct," I confirmed. Pause. "I see. Were you aware that preferred shareholder approval is required for this merger to proceed?" "Yes, I was aware. It's specified in Section 7.3 of the Preferred Share Purchase Agreement." Another pause. "Yes. Exactly. Miss Chin, I'll be direct. Anderson Manufacturing cannot complete the merger with Titan Corp without your approval. You are the majority preferred shareholder. Your signature is legally required." "I understand. The family was unaware of your ownership stake. Richard Anderson and Marcus Anderson have been attempting to reach you. I noticed the calls. Would you be willing to come to our offices to discuss the situation? We're in Riverside. We could arrange a meeting as early as tomorrow." "I could come Friday," I said. 2 p.m. "Friday at 2 p.m. would be excellent. Thank you, Miss Chin. I'll send you the address and details." "One thing, Mr. Hutchinson?" "Yes." "Who will be attending this meeting?" "The family members involved in the business. Richard, Marcus, and the board members. Titan Corp's representatives. Our legal team. And the company's financial advisors. Perfect. See you Friday. I hung up and immediately received another call. I let it go to voicemail. Then Marcus. Also to voicemail. Then a text from Marcus. Call me now. Urgent family emergency. I texted back. I have a meeting with the lawyers on Friday. We can discuss everything then. My phone exploded with calls and texts. I silenced it. Daniel brought home Thai food that night. Are you nervous? Not even a little bit, I said. I've been preparing for this my entire life. Every time they excluded me, dismissed me, reminded me I wasn't real family, they were training me not to care about their feelings. What are you going to do? I honestly don't know yet. Part of me wants to approve the merger, take my dividends and never speak to them again. Part of me wants to block it entirely just to watch Marcus's face. And part of me wants to see if they're capable of basic human decency when they need something from me. They won't apologize, Daniel predicted. Probably not. But I want them to understand that they need me. That the adopted kid they've dismissed for 28 years has power they never anticipated. That bloodlines don't matter when you're signing legal documents. Friday afternoon I drove to Riverside. I'd taken the day off work. Dressed in my best business suit, Navy Tom Ford, the one I'd bought when I made senior analyst. Professional. Expensive. Powerful. The law offices of Hutchinson and Bradshaw occupied the third floor of the nicest building in downtown Riverside. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly when I gave my name. They're waiting for you in the main conference room. Right this way. She led me down a hallway lined with oil paintings and mahogany paneling. Through the glass walls of the conference room I could see them all waiting. Dad at the head of the table looking 10 years older than I'd seen him last week. Marcus next to him, jaw clenched. Mom in the corner wringing her hands. Aunt Patricia. Uncle Tom. The corporate lawyer, Mr. Hutchinson, surrounded by stacks of documents. Two people I didn't recognize, probably from Titan Corp. And a nervous-looking accountant with a laptop. The receptionist opened the door. Ms. Maya Chin. Every head turned. The room went silent. I walked in confidently, heels clicking on the marble floor. Good afternoon. Mr. Hutchinson stood immediately. Miss Chin, thank you so much for coming. Please have a seat. He gestured to a chair directly across from Dad and Marcus. I sat down, placed my bag beside me and folded my hands on the table. Waited. Dad spoke first. His voice was strained. Why, I think there's been some kind of mistake. Gerald here seems to think you own preferred shares in Anderson Manufacturing. There's no mistake, I said calmly. I own 67% of the preferred shares. I purchased them in 2020 through multiple investment vehicles when the company needed capital. Marcus's face was red. That's impossible. We would have known. You didn't ask, I interrupted gently. The shares were sold through a third-party investment firm. You received the capital you needed. You never inquired about the purchasers' identities. Mr. Hutchinson cleared his throat. Ms. Chen's ownership is fully documented and legally sound. We've verified everything. She is indeed the majority preferred shareholder. But Dad looked genuinely confused. You're a financial analyst in Chicago. Where would you get $4.2 million? I've had a successful career for the past 8 years, I said. I manage a significant portfolio. I make strategic investments. It's what I do professionally. You never told us you had that kind of money, Mom said quietly. You never asked about my career, I replied. In 28 years, none of you ever asked what I actually do, what I earn, or what I've accomplished. You assumed I was struggling because that fit the narrative you'd created. Silence. Marcus found his voice. Okay, fine. You own some shares. But this is just a formality, right? You'll approve the merger? It benefits everyone, including you. Your dividends would increase significantly. I'm aware of the financial benefits, I said. So you'll sign? Dad asked hopefully. I looked at him directly. That depends. On what? Marcus demanded. On whether you're capable of treating me like a human being instead of an outsider. The room went very quiet. Last week, I continued, my voice steady, Marcus told me I'm not real family. He said business decisions are for blood relatives only. He announced to a room full of people that I'm adopted and therefore not entitled to be involved in Anderson Manufacturing. And not one person disagreed with him. Not one person defended me. Dad's face paled. For 28 years, you've reminded me I'm not really an Anderson. That I don't belong. That I'm not entitled to the same treatment as Marcus. You didn't come to my wedding. You forgot my birthdays. You excluded me from holidays and business discussions. You made me feel like a stranger in the only family I've ever known. Maya, Mom started. I'm not finished. My voice was calm but firm. You treated me like I was worth less because I wasn't connected to you by blood. And now, ironically, the only thing standing between you and $32 million is a legal document that requires my signature. Blood doesn't matter in contract law. Only ownership does. Marcus was shaking. Are you seriously going to block this deal because your feelings are hurt? My feelings aren't hurt, Marcus. I stopped letting you hurt my feelings years ago. I'm simply pointing out the situation you're in. You need something from someone you've spent decades dismissing as irrelevant. What do you want? Dad asked. Money? A larger share of the proceeds? A position in the company? I don't want any of those things. Then what? Marcus nearly shouted. I want you to understand what you did, I said simply. I want you to recognize that the family member you treated as disposable held power you never anticipated. I want you to feel what it's like to need something from someone who has every reason to refuse you. Mr. Hutchinson interjected carefully. Miss Chin, may I ask your intentions regarding the merger approval? I turned to him. What happens if I refuse to sign? The merger cannot proceed. Titan Corp has made it clear they won't move forward without complete ownership transparency and all required approvals. If you refuse, the deal collapses. And Anderson Manufacturing would continue as is. No capital injection. No expansion. No merger benefits. He paused. Given the company's current financial situation, that would be challenging. One of the Titan Corp representatives spoke up. Our offer is contingent on immediate acceptance. If this delays more than 2 weeks, we'll likely withdraw and pursue other acquisition targets. I nodded slowly. I see. Maya, please, Dad said. This merger would secure the company's future. It would provide for the entire family. Your mother and I could retire comfortably. Marcus would have a stable executive position. Everyone benefits. Including me? I asked. Do I benefit from helping people who made it clear I don't belong? You'd receive substantial dividend increases, the accountant offered nervously. Your shares would be worth significantly more. I'm already wealthy, I said. I don't need more money. I need to decide whether people who've treated me as less than family for 28 years deserve my help. Marcus stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're seriously going to torpedo a $32 million deal because you're bitter about childhood stuff? Grow up, Maya. This is business. Sit down, Marcus, Dad said sharply. No. This is insane. She's not even real family and now she's holding us hostage because she's... Marcus. Dad's voice was thunderous. Sit down. Now. Marcus sat, his face purple with rage. Dad looked at me. For the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes that might have been respect. Or fear. Or both. Maya, he said carefully. You're right. We treated you terribly. We excluded you. We dismissed you. We made you feel unwanted in your own family. He paused. I don't have an excuse for that. We were wrong. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever received from him. If you approve this merger, Dad continued, what would you need from us? I considered the question. I don't want money or position. I don't even want an apology because I don't think any of you are truly sorry. You're only sorry now because you need something from me. Then what? Mom asked, tears in her eyes. I want honesty, I said. I want you to admit, right now in front of all these witnesses, that you treated me as less than family because it was convenient. That you dismissed my achievements because acknowledging them would have meant acknowledging me as an equal. That everything Marcus said last week reflected what you all actually believe. The silence was deafening. And then, I continued, I want you to understand that I'm approving this merger not because of anything you've done to deserve it, but because I'm choosing to be a bigger person than any of you have ever been to me. I'm going to sign these documents because it's the right business decision, and because I don't believe in punishing innocent employees and shareholders for your personal failures. I turned to Mr. Hutchinson. I'll approve the merger. With 2 conditions. What conditions? He asked. First, my approval and shareholding remain confidential. The public documentation shows preferred shareholders approved, but doesn't list my name. I don't want to be associated with this family publicly. That can be arranged, Mr. Hutchinson said, making a note. Second, I want all future preferred shareholder dividends donated to a scholarship fund I'm establishing. It will provide college funding for adopted children pursuing careers in business and finance. I don't want a penny from this company. Dad's eyes widened. Maya, you don't have to. That's my condition, I said firmly. Take it or leave it. Mr. Hutchinson looked at Dad. Those terms are acceptable? Dad nodded slowly. Yes. Acceptable. Then draft the approval documents, I said. I'll sign them today. The relief in the room was palpable. The Titan Corp representatives immediately began discussing next steps with the lawyers. The accountant started typing furiously on his laptop. I stood to leave. Maya, wait, Mom said. Please. Can we talk? Really talk. I looked at her. At all of them. Dad's defeated posture. Marcus's humiliated expression. Aunt Patricia staring at the table. Uncle Tom, who'd participated in every exclusion without a word of protest. No, I said gently. There's nothing left to talk about. You'll have your merger. I'll have peace knowing I'm nothing like you. That's enough. I turned to Mr. Hutchinson. Send the documents to my attorney for review. I'll sign them once he confirms everything is in order. You have my contact information. Of course, Ms. Chin. Thank you for your cooperation. I walked toward the door. As I reached it, Marcus called out. You think you're better than us? I turned back. No, Marcus. I don't think I'm better than you. I know I'm different from you. I know that when I had power over people who hurt me, I chose compassion over revenge. You would have never done the same. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is, I replied. After the merger closes, I'm selling all my shares. I'm severing every financial connection to Anderson Manufacturing and to this family. You'll never need anything from me again. And I'll never have to pretend we're family. I walked out of the conference room, down the hallway, out of the building. Got in my car. Drove away from Riverside and everything it represented. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. How did it go? I smiled. I'll tell you over dinner. But the short version. I approved the merger, established a scholarship fund for adopted kids, and walked away from the family forever. I feel lighter than I have in years. 3 weeks later, the merger closed. Anderson Manufacturing became part of Titan Corp Industries. The family members received their payouts. My preferred shares converted to Titan Corp stock, which I immediately sold. The scholarship fund was established with my proceeds. The Maya Chin Foundation for Adopted Scholars. First-year funding. Full tuition, room and board for 12 students. I received one letter from Dad afterward. I didn't open it. I donated it to the foundation's office to use as scratch paper. Marcus sent angry texts for a week. I blocked his number. Mom tried calling several times. I didn't answer. The last contact I received was from Aunt Patricia, 6 months later. A wedding invitation for my cousin's ceremony. I wasn't listed in the family lineup. I was invited and guessed like a distant acquaintance. I sent a polite decline and a generous gift card. I'm 30 now. Daniel and I just bought a beautiful house in Lincoln Park. I made partner at my firm last month. The scholarship fund is growing. We'll be able to support 20 students next year. Sometimes I wonder if they ever really understood what happened. If they realized that the adopted daughter they dismissed owned more of their company than anyone else. If they grasped the irony that their beloved bloodline-based business legacy was saved by the family member they claimed wasn't real family. Probably not. But it doesn't matter anymore. I built my own family. My own success. My own legacy. And none of it required their approval.